So now, why run for president first? Why not run for a mayor or something like that? And
Well, as you can tell, I'm concerned with the fact that our country doesn't seem to understand that it is not immigrants that are causing economic issues around the country. It is the fact that technology is pushing us to this set of situations where now you have Americans freaking out, dying young, and like turning on each other. And so, if I'd run for mayor of a city, it's like the issues I'm concerned with are truly national in scope, and we do not have that much time. It's like so if you're going to try and get some remedies like the freedom dividend over the finish line in a 5 to 10 year time period, you have to kind of start at the top. You have to go big. And I'm happy to say that I just qualified for the Democratic primary debates in June. We're raising tens of thousands of dollars a day from thousands of Americans around the country. But we can make this case very, very quickly because we genuinely just don't have that much time to make these changes.
do you feel that someone like Bernie Sanders wouldn't implement similar programs, and he's doing a half measure, or what? Why? So I would think if I was you, I would think, well, I should take all my energy and put it behind this guy Bernie Sanders, who's already the front runner, who we all know is going to bring democratic socialism to America, exactly what people need. So that's why. So why wouldn't you do that as opposed to running yourself?
Well, I'm very, very aligned with many of Bernie's goals and values. I supported him in the last run. I think he's moving the country in the right direction. And if Bernie were to come out tomorrow and say, I support a universal basic income of $1,000 per month per adult, no one would be happier than me. And so we need to just keep moving the country in the right direction. But I'm a fan of, I have many, many friends who are working on the Bernie campaign right now. I think some of my approaches will be a little bit more direct and modern. I think I may understand the impact of technology in a way that perhaps, like Bernie may not. But we're all on the same team just trying to solve these problems, in my opinion.
Are you pro-union?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, unions have been a bastion of the middle class, and without them, many workers would have much, much lower compensation and worse benefits and everything else. So I enjoy every time I hang out with the union workers in any of the states I campaign in.
So you'd be for card check, things like that?
Yeah. And I actually, when I was in San Francisco, we had a rally of 3,000 people, and I was introduced by this woman who was trying to get a union in mixed martial arts, and then she got fired for it, and which I think is deeply immoral. It should be against the law, but unfortunately, Donald Trump himself intervened in that case, because Donald Trump's friends with the head of the UFC. So I'm for workers' ability to unionize in any industry or situation.
And for a minimum wage, what are you for, the 15 or the 20 or the 25? Are you for one of those?
Well, I'm for 100% for the spirit that no American should be working full time and not be able to pay their bills. But the reality is, if we move to a $15 minimum wage, there are many, many small businesses and industries like fast food that would probably end up getting rid of shifts in workers. Because if you have a fast food restaurant that's paying people $9.25 an hour, and then you say it's 15, then they're going to look around and be like, it's like robot burger flipper time, or it's like self-serve kiosk time, which might be okay. But I'm suggesting that if we put $1,000 a month into people's hands, then that serves as a virtual raise for every worker. It makes workers much harder to exploit. It actually rewards mothers and caregivers who right now a minimum wage would not impact. Like a freedom dividend is much, much broader and bigger, and then we can turn to a minimum wage, but the need for it goes much, much lower because I'm essentially giving everyone $1,000 a month raise, which would raise the effective minimum wage to close to $15 an hour anyway.
So, okay, well, I don't agree with that because, that idea that if we raise people's wages, they'll automate them. They will automate them if they can. They're not doing that because they're nice, right? Or because they would, if they could automate their jobs right now, they would do it right now. And that the only reason
that is generally true.
Yeah,
but it is possible that if you change the economic incentives to automate something, it might become more appealing.
Right. Okay. But I like to bowl. We don't have pinsetters anymore. It's not because they tried to get more money for pinsetters. Okay.
It is also true too, though, Jimmy, that like if you look at like some struggling mom and pop retailer around the country, like a lot of them are paying their workers like $9, $10 an hour. And then if you say, hey, it's $15, like some of them might cut back shifts or some of them might struggle. Like I've run a small private company, and a lot of these small businesses are really, really close to, like the red at any moment in time. And something that seems like completely common sense to us, being like, hey, just pay people $15 an hour, actually would cause some of these businesses to say, you know what, I'm gonna have to cut a shift or cut a worker at the margins. So again, I just rather just give people the raise directly, and I think workers would prefer that too. If we just put $1,000 a month in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, again, the UBI is you're correct on that, and you're incorrect on the other stuff. Businesses hire when there's a demand for their product. End of sentence. And if there's a demand for their product, they got to hire a worker. And nobody's going to go, boy, I have all these orders, but I can't pay that guy $15, so I'm not going to fill them. So that's illogical. That is a right-wing talking point. That is not how economics works.
Businesses are not flourishing at that level. If they're just living hand to mouth and they don't have the orders, and they have a hard time even paying the people they have, if you elevate those costs, it might in some situations mean they cut shifts or cut workers. I mean, that is not economic theory. That is sound. That is right-wing talking points. But right, I have a small business. We have 6, 7 employees at this place right here. And if I can't afford to pay someone a living wage, I should go out of business. Why should I be able to make a living wage, but the person who generates that income for me doesn't get to have a living wage? That's ridiculous. That is exactly the way I ran my business too, Jimmy. Okay, that's good. That is great. All right, well, Andrew, is there anything I forgot to ask you that you want to talk about? Well, what I'd love to just leave people with is like we need to build a trickle-up version of our economy as fast as possible, an economy that actually works for us. And the losing part for progressives right now is that somehow we seem like we're in opposition to the dominant economic narrative. Right. And I think one of the things that I can add to this conversation is that we're in a race that we're going to lose on an epic, catastrophic scale right now. And it's because of this winner-take-all version of capitalism. But it's also that the subtext of all of this is that we see people as economic inputs into this giant machine of capital efficiency. And then we're all going to lose in unprecedented ways because technology is advancing to a point where it's going to be harder for like a bookkeeper, a retail worker, a truck driver, a radiologist. And so the only silver lining to this disaster that we're set to witness is that it's going to push us to evolve in terms of the way we see ourselves and our place in the economy. We have to make this economy work for us as fast as possible. And that is our only path out of the economy of the 21st century. And that's what my campaign's about. And I'm happy to say people are waking up to the reality around us all the time. Well, I want to applaud you for raising people's consciousness in such a short amount of time. It's really amazing what you pulled off, don't you think? Well, thank you for saying so, Jimmy. I mean, we're very excited here in the campaign. And certainly it's been like an incredible burst of interest and enthusiasm this last number of weeks. I mean, we'll have the fundraising numbers out shortly, but we're raising like a lot of money. and we're raising a lot of money in increments of only $20 on average. So we joke that our fans are even cheaper than Bernie's. And that's exactly what you want because, you want like a lot of donors that will be with you the whole way. Now, we've said on this show that it's more important for the Democratic machine to defeat the progressive than it is to try to defeat their first business is to defeat the progressive, and then maybe they'll beat Donald Trump. And it's been revealed all over the place that that's the case. Most recently, the host on MSNBC, Donnie Deutsch, said he'd vote for Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders, which just the cat's out of the bag. If you think that guy's a traitor, so anyway, so they'd rather screw over a progressive. And so what happened was they cheat the progressives, right? Because your policies and ideas, just like Bernie's, are actually popular with people because people are actually hurting. And that's why you're coming up with these policies, because 80% of people in America are living paycheck to paycheck in the richest country in the world. And what I like to say is, what do you call a system that takes the richest country in the world and renders half of its population poor or low income? You call that a failed system. So you're raising people's consciousness about changing our system just a little bit to help people in the richest country in the world not live like we're in a third world country. Thank you for seeing that, Jimmy. It makes me so happy because that's exactly what I'm doing, and it's exactly what needs to happen. So thank you. And thank you for being such a voice of reason, on these topics. It's awesome to be able to connect with you.
Yes. Now we disagree on several things that don't matter. Like we disagree on we disagree on whether we should start a third party. Like that doesn't matter because you need a charismatic leader to start a third party. Then the one is Bernie Sanders isn't going to do it. Also, the other thing is the electoral college. It's not changing, so it's almost a moot conversation. So we disagree on that. So I don't really want to get into that. But would you? So what hurt a lot of people in the progressive movement was that when the corporate Democrats cheated Bernie Sanders blatantly, committed the biggest electoral fraud in the history of our country, nobody ever paid a price for that. And that's why that's one of the reasons why Russiagate happened. But then Bernie turned around and told those same people, he said, that's the problem. Now you have to go support the problem. And that really tore the guts out of a lot of people. Now, if they cheat you, did you sign that pledge? Did you sign that pledge, first of all?
You mean the pledge, the DNC pledge?
Yes, that you will support whoever the nominee is?
I have not signed that pledge, but I intend to.
Oh, God.
Because job number one is getting Donald Trump out of office. I'm certainly going to do everything I can to make sure that we get him out. And so, I have no intention of being a spoiler. I'm just going to campaign my guts out to try and get Donald Trump out of office. And, I believe that the Democratic nominee will be our best chance at that. But I intend to be that nominee. And so campaigning for myself is not going to be that much of a sacrifice.
Okay, the great answer. I just think I can't wait to see you, Bernie, and Elizabeth Warren going around telling people to vote for Joe Biden. It's going to be hilarious.
It's not going to come to that, Jimmy. It's not going to come to that.
Well, Andrew Yang, everybody go to his website. He's a good progressive. He's got some great ideas. And he's raising a lot of issues that, certainly one issue no one else is really raising. And we applaud him for that. Thanks for doing that. And you're welcome on the show anytime.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'll be back for sure. Enjoyed the heck out of the conversation. And congratulations again for being a voice of reason.
Okay, right back at you. Talk to you later. Next live Jimmy Dore show is June 5th. That's a Wednesday at Hermosa Beach Comedy Club in Hermosa Beach, California. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets. We might be coming to your town. And if you love the show, please become a patron. Please support the show. We give you hours of bonus material every week. And please click that bell and make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are already subscribed, they unsubscribe people every day. Just check. Thanks for your support.